So in chapter 10 of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives Arjuna this incredible gift, a way to see the divine literally everywhere. He teaches him how to recognize intelligence, how to see excellence without letting his ego get in the way, and how to understand meaning in all the forms around him. But, right at the peak of this profound teaching, a really subtle but crucial problem starts to creep in. If you can understand it all, why isn't that enough? And that's the big question we're tackling in this explainer. It's a paradox that sits right at the heart of so many spiritual and philosophical journeys. I mean, think about it. Arjuna gets it. He understands the logic, but he still asks for something more. So why isn't intellectual clarity the final step? Let's dive in and break it down. Okay, so first, let's just take a moment to appreciate the power of what Krishna has already offered. He's laid out a complete conceptual framework. He's taught Arjuna to see the best of the best in the world as a manifestation of the divine, a way to see excellence without the ego trying to claim it. And to get that, meaning can flow through any form. I mean, by all accounts, this should be enough, right? Well, that brings us to what we can call the recognition paradox. See, Arjuna understands everything Krishna is saying. He's totally on board, intellectually. And yet, there's a disconnect. He's still unsatisfied. And this is where the real teaching starts to get even deeper. Try to put yourself in Arjuna's position here. He agrees with the philosophy. He can follow the logic from point A to point B, no problem. There's no intellectual argument left to have, but there's this feeling, right? This sense that the map is not the territory. Something essential is still missing from the equation. And here we get to the core of the why. You see, conceptual recognition, no matter how profound it is, has these built-in limits. For one, it's a process that's happening entirely inside the mind. It also works by comparing one thing to another. This is more excellent than that. And it always requires a layer of interpretation. It's an indirect experience, through and through. This really gets to the heart of the issue. An idea can point you in the right direction, kind of like a signpost pointing towards the ocean. It can tell you the ocean is there, for sure. But it can't give you the experience of the waves or the feeling of the salt in the air. It can't completely overwhelm your doubt that the ocean might just be a mirage. For that, you have to actually go there yourself. So the crucial point here is that the very tool being used, language, concepts, ideas, it has its own limits. And what's fascinating is that Krishna himself knows this, and he even points it out. Yeah, even the divine teacher acknowledges the boundary. After giving this long, beautiful list of examples in chapter 10, Krishna basically says, look, this is just a tiny glimpse. I'm using words to describe something that is way beyond them. And this isn't a failure of his teaching. It's just an honest admission about the nature of language itself. Because just think about what language does. It takes this unified, whole reality and just carves it up into separate little pieces. It puts a name on this and a name on that, creating this artificial separation where none might actually exist. It also takes processes that are continuous and totally fluid and freezes them into these static things, these nouns. Think about a river. It's a constant flow. It's a verb. But we call it a river, a noun, a thing. We slap a label on it, and in doing that, we lose a part of its true flowing nature. And ultimately, language just has to simplify what is infinitely complex and vast. I mean, to make reality understandable to our minds, it has to be reduced, summarized, and put into these neat little boxes. The map can never, ever be the territory. So this brings us to a really clear definition we can use. The conceptual limit. It's that exact point where the mind, with all of its brilliant tools of language and logic, just hits a wall. It can't go any further because the experience of reality is simply too big, too whole to fit inside a single thought. And this all leads to a very, very human experience. Having perfect intellectual clarity about something, and yet still being plagued by this deep, nagging doubt. You can understand a philosophy inside and out, and still not fully, truly trust it in your bones. And this is the question that just lingers in the background, isn't it? You can admire the beauty of nature, see excellence in human achievement. You can accept the logic of a unified consciousness. But a small part of your mind can still whisper, is this really real? Or is it just a nice story I'm telling myself? Because here's the bottom line. A beautiful idea doesn't stop the fear of death. A clever philosophical argument doesn't silence that deep uncertainty we all feel about our place in the cosmos. These are emotional, existential states, and they often operate on a level that concepts just can't touch.
As long as truth is only understood, the mind keeps a safe distance.
It's precisely at this moment of tension that the entire Bhagavad Gita pivots. The story is about to make this dramatic, critical turn from the realm of knowing to the realm of seeing. Everything that has come before was just preparation for this moment. And the contrast is just stark. On one side, you've got knowing. This is the world of explanation, of reasoning, of illustration, everything Krishna has been doing so far. But on the other side is seeing. And that's the world of revelation, of directness, of raw, unfiltered experience. The shift from one to the other is probably the most important leap in the entire text. And it all boils down to these two simple, powerful words from Arjuna: show me. It's not explain more. It's not give me another analogy. It's a demand for direct perception. He's done with the signposts. He wants to see the ocean for himself. And it's so important to understand this. This isn't just Arjuna being curious. This is a profound statement of readiness. He has pushed his mind to the absolute limit of what it can grasp. He's honored the path of knowledge as far as it can possibly go. And now, he's standing at the very edge of the conceptual world, ready for whatever lies beyond it. So, how does this ancient dilemma apply to our lives today? Well, this journey from theory to experience isn't just for epic poems. It happens to us all the time when we're genuinely seeking truth or some kind of personal transformation. We put in the intellectual work, right? We read the books, we listen to the talks, we try to understand philosophy or psychology or spirituality. We really strive to think clearly and build a solid mental model of the world and ourselves. And yet, despite all that effort, we can still feel that persistent sense of existential doubt, that emotional hesitation to truly commit, that lingering fear that our intellectual understanding is just a fragile defense. When you feel this disconnect, it is not a sign of failure. It's a signal. And that is the ultimate wisdom of how Chapter 10 ends. It concludes with this profound sense of humility. It teaches us that understanding is an absolutely necessary and valuable first step, but we also have to recognize its limits. The mind has taken us as far as it can go, which leaves us with the ultimate cliffhanger. What happens when the explanations stop, when the lists are finished, and when words finally run out? Well, that's where Chapter 11 begins. It's a shift from argument to revelation, a direct encounter that aims to dissolve doubt not with more ideas, but with an overwhelming experience of reality itself.